Hi again, welcome back in, another week and another video. And we've got some misconceptions that are quite common when people talk about travel marshals. A few which aren't completely incorrect, a few which are absolutely wrong. So let's get straight into them and I'll tell you which is which. Yeah, so welcome back in. So over the last few weeks, few months maybe, there's been way more interaction on the videos and the channel, just the nature of things, the way things grow. And with that comes all the experts who don't know anything about what's going on. And I'm not saying that's the majority of people are like really well informed and are great, positive about everything. But the nature of the way things are now, isn't it? As soon as anyone's got an opinion or has some information about something, there's somebody else who wants to either disprove it or just argue about it for argument's sake and get a load of kick-off on the internet. But yeah, keyboard warriors are out there. The idea is just don't get too involved in getting into these wars of words with people online. There's just no point to any of it. And then you sort of like hum and ha about whether you want to like talk about these things because all you're doing is acknowledging the people who have negative comments. But it's not about that. It's about there's a certain amount of things that people either assume or have been falsely told about us and the job we do. And so let's just put some of the most common ones to bed. So the first common misconception is all travel marshals are doctors or paramedics. Completely not true. To be a qualified doctor or paramedic is not just something you do like part-time. I know it can be, especially for paramedics, I know it can be, but it's not something you can just take on quickly. So it's more of a lifestyle choice, isn't it? It's a job, it's a career, being a doctor or a paramedic. We do take on an advanced role of first aid training to do the job we do. And first aid can sound a little bit Cub Scouty, can't it? You know, it's a little bit how to put a bandage on or a sling or something like that. And as you can imagine, the stuff we come across, there's no point in us learning how to do a first aid course on the correct way to put on a sling or to do a burn from a scald from an oven or something. So loads of that stuff that would come on a first aid course is just completely irrelevant. We train with the air med crew and the CMO, the chief medical officers. So there's a collection of things that we'll deal with on scene that are serious and quite specialised. And so we carry airways, for instance. It's so important that, and it sounds obvious, it's so important that people can breathe. And airway management is a huge part of the sort of things that we see. And it's a critical thing that we have to undertake, if need be, before AirMed arrive and then really take control of what's going on. And so we spend time with the AirMed crew training on those very specific procedures that we might need to do in the case of an accident on TT course. And the nature of some of the jobs that the travel marshals do also incorporates quite a bit of first aid care. So we've got 2 firefighters, we've got an ex-school teacher that'll be incorporated in it somewhere, and police officer. And you know, so it's not completely out of the realms of what these people would have done anyway in terms of general first aid training. However, myself, nothing to do with my job, it's to do with first aid. I work on cars and run computer systems, so it's like nothing to do with that. We've also got somebody who specialises in fiberglassing and a plasterer. Again, we're not in a world day to day where it's anything to do with first aid. So the specific things that we train for with the AirMed crew, which are like, those guys are just absolute superheroes to us. I'm going to go off topic again a little bit here, but when normal marshals deal with a scene, I say normal marshals, trackside marshals deal with a scene, there's this collective kind of sigh of relief when the TM turns up and like, oh, okay, the TM's here now. They can sort of manage the scene and will basically be their arms and whatever need be to look after whatever needs looking after. And that sense of relief is completely understandable because We get there, we do what we've got to do, see management, it's dealing with the rider, sorting everything out. And if it's serious, you're always told on the radio, if it is serious anyway, that AirMed's been dispatched and it's on its way. And you know they're not going to be more 5, 6, 7 minutes away maximum. So you know you've got a window to control everything and get everything sorted until they arrive. And when those boys jump out of that helicopter, it is like a film. They're superheroes to us. Those guys, like the AirMed boys, are amazing, and like I stand there sometimes in awe watching them work. Their knowledge, obviously. I mean, they're obviously ridiculously clever guys to train in what they're trained in, but they're just sort of like, and it's relatable. You know, they're really calm, manage everything really well, methodical, but also very adaptable to every kind of scenario. And yeah, they're just like, sometimes you just watch them go in, and obviously they kind of speak a different language, don't they, with a lot of medical stuff. And yeah, those guys are just amazing. But yeah, put the first one to bed, and the first one's ended up being a really long one, hasn't it? No, we're not paramedics, we're not doctors, but we're trained in very, very specific care for the kind of scenarios that we see, and all guided and trained by Chief Medical Officer and the AirMed crew themselves. So that's that one. Second one we get is that this is basically a part-time job, and that we run other events as well in terms of travel Marshal events. And so first thing is, it's in no way a job. It's completely voluntary. People under assumption we're paid to do it. It's completely voluntary. We get nothing in terms of, there's no payment at all. We are just like a trackside marshal. We're a volunteer. We just happen to have a motorbike and a few of the little perks for the job. And again, so like honoured to have ever been asked to do it, and I'll never ever take it for granted. I know how many people would absolutely like, you know, cut their arm off to have a go at this. And yeah, like, it's not the easiest job in the world, and sometimes it's horrendous, but so privileged for the chance to do it, and I'll never ever take it for granted. But it isn't a job. It's a volunteer role that we all undertake, give up our time and do it, and we do give up a lot of time, but completely voluntary. And the second thing is that we do at other events. So they think that we do Northwest, like nothing to do with Northwest. If you look at I don't even if they call them travel marshals, because I don't think pretty sure they don't go on live track. I think they may follow like the riders round on the first lap, or after a race is finished, maybe they'll do an inspection lap. But they'll all be on different bikes and different gear and stuff. And yeah, we don't do Northwest. We never did the Ulster. Obviously, we do the Manx Grand Prix and we do the Southern 100 and anything that happens at Blount. So everything on the island, road racing on the island, we're involved in. Outside of that, we're nothing to do with any of it. So that's another one that we'll put straight. Another one I heard, and I've heard it more in the last couple of years than any time before. I don't know how this rumour's got out there, but everyone thinks that we get to keep the bikes. And when I say keep them, I mean Honda give you the bike, you use it, and then put it in the collection, and you get another one every year to keep. And it's like, no, not the case. And if then, it would be the greatest job in the world, wouldn't it? £25,000 motorbike every year to keep. No, not the case. The bikes they came in March this year. They came in really good time. I've talked about this before, but we get them run in, they get the first service, and then we have the small alterations, big screen, tracker, GPS tracker and stuff on it. And we use it for TT, and like, it's still sat here now. It's been a couple of weeks now since TT, and mine sits here till Grand Prix. And after Grand Prix, within a couple of weeks, they're back on the boat and they're back across to Honda UK, who will do with them what they'll do with them. A couple of them ended up staying on Ireland last year and have been sold to local dealers through Nathan Harrison's shop. Some of them go back and you'll see them online at like Northwest Honda and places like that. So like, if you want to get your hands on one, there's a little like community group of people who've got XTM bikes, and they keep the M's on them and the yellows, and they like have meetups and stuff. So it's a nice little thing really. But yeah, we don't get to keep the bikes. However, we do get to keep the helmets, because people see us the helmets, and people seem to be surprised that we get to keep them. There's two sides to that. One, it's like, obviously they're worth a lot of money, and I might want them back, but who wants like a used helmet? It's like, obviously in terms of the shell and stuff, they're, apart from the odd stone chip, I always seem to get stone chips for some reason. I don't know why, but I do. They're absolutely mint, and obviously you can wash and change the padding on the inside, and you could have them as like X display or XTM helmets if they wanted to. Well, I'm definitely not encouraging it because they're my little prized possession every year, and I've obviously got all mine in a cabinet here and up on the back wall, and I look forward to getting them every year so much, and like, yes, they're beautiful little things. So yeah, we get to keep the helmets. Fortunately, we don't get to keep the bikes. The third one, and it's a bit about sort of speeds, lap times, things like that. And people will say to us, how quick can you do a lap? And the simple answer is, I don't know really. We all know what kind of lap speeds we did when we raced, but for Richard Wilson, the new Travel Marshal, last year he was doing 125 mile an hour laps on his BMW at the TT. And it's so fresh to him that I'm sure he could jump on one of these and get close to that, because the bike's not a million miles away from what he used. And yeah, okay, the tyres are a bit more streety and he'd take a bit more care because you're not racing, but he'd be easily over 120 on one of these. If you said to one of the older guys, so you said to Jim, well, how fast did you go when you did the TT? Well, he's not done the TT for 33 years, so whatever time he was doing back then from what bike he raced back then, it wouldn't be relevant. I'm sure he'd be faster now on one of these just because the bike's way quicker. So you can't just say, well, I did 107 when I raced the TT 30 years ago, I'd only do 107 now. He'd definitely go quicker on one of these. They're so capable. But yeah, you've seen us out there on track. You know we don't like hang around, but we're definitely not pushing at race speeds because we don't need to be taking that kind of risk. And someone will say, oh, I saw you come through wherever it may be, Hilbury or somewhere, you know, fast places. It's like, you were quicker than half the races. And I was like, I know it looks like we might be. And it's because we've got the big jacket on and the wing mirrors, and because we're on a road bike, there's like it almost looks faster than a race bike because it looks more, I don't know, out of place, if you know what I mean. And like, we're not a million miles away from like the guys towards the back end of the field, but we're not going as quick as they are. We're just not. Different, of course, at the Grand Prix. You know, the guys in the classic superbike class now must be doing 126, 127, and so they're going quicker than we are. But then the flip side of that is the slowest classics probably aren't even doing 100 mile an hour lap, so that is different. And then if we come zooming past on one of these after you've seen a whole procession of classics, it looks really quick. Another one I heard this year for the first time is that all Travel Marshals are previous winners on the TT course, whether that's TT or Manx Grand Prix. False. Half of us, though, have won races at the Manx, not including me, to say. Frustratingly, I didn't win a Grand Prix. I crashed twice while in second place. And probably both really my fault, but I was trying to run before I could walk, really, and just too keen at too young to do too much too soon. But it's not about me. Tony did the double at the Manx in the same year. Paul's won a 400 race. Johnny's won a race. Oh, and of course Jim's won a race as well. So that's half of the TMs have won races. But you don't have to have won a race. And I don't think there's ever been a TT race winner who's ended up being Travel Marshal. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think there has been. So maybe that's something for the future. But yeah, we've all obviously competed at the Manx or the TT, because the flip side of that is people say, oh, have you ever raced? And then it's like, yeah, we have. We've all raced the TT or the Manx. And like we spoke about before, we know the course, we know the racing line, we know how to ride at a decent speed, so we're predictable. We're predictable for fast riders who want to pass us, and we can slot in to the race without too much disruption to anybody, and not being on a silly line or being way off pace or whatever. So it's about blending into those races or practice sessions and getting involved, getting in the middle of it and being with them, and not getting in the way, basically. And then also being safe. So you need to have experience at riding the course at speed and be safe. So that's it. So yeah, we haven't all won a race, although half of us have, but we all have raced at a decent speed around the TT course. Another one again, not a common one, but a funny one that came up again this year. They seem to be all coming out now. You see people starting to talk a bit more about it and things. But someone came up to me and said, you get a new set of tyres every day, don't you? And I'm like, nope. I look at the tyre, it clearly isn't brand new. But yeah, we don't need a new tyre every day. I've talked about tyres before, and I'm trying to repeat myself over and over again. The tyres we run are more street-based, way more street-based than the tyres that come on the Fireblades as standard. They're way more track-based, like supercourses. They're barely a slick with a cut in it. You know, they're like really sort of, you only really want to be in the dry on them. We can run in the wet on these Metzelers. They're way more across the spectrum. They cover way more conditions because we go out in the bad conditions. But also, they heat up fast. They've got a really good level of grip. Not optimally, they're not as good as some tyre, but they get to a really high level really fast, and they're predictable, and they get hot and sticky fast, and they're just like, they're great tyres. But if we need a new set, we'll get a new set. There's been times at TT when where it's been busy, so we've been doing lots of laps for various reasons, and it's been hot. And supercourses, I remember specifically, because they are soft, they wear out fast, and by the middle of practice week, there wasn't much left on them. And that's the extreme version of it. Like, we ran these Metzels last year, and they lasted us all TT, all Grand Prix, and the boys who did the pre-TT and the Southern on them as well, and they still had loads left. So, like, that extra little bit of grip you get from a softer rubber that wears out faster just isn't worth it compared to the longevity and the range of conditions that you can run these in. So yeah, we don't get a new set of tyres every night, despite what you think. I think it goes down to Honda and they just start throwing tyres at it as quick as they do for Dean Harrison. They don't. We have the one set, and if they do get worn, because we've done a lot over TT, we'll get a new set for Grand Prix. But if we don't need them, we won't put them on. And to be honest, we're not going to need them this year. These are going to be fine to see us all the way through to the end of next Grand Prix. And another slightly lesser known one, people have been asking it right now because we're on the run up into Grand Prix now and talking about newcomers and how involved we get with them. So like the TT, the newcomers you tend to get in solos at the TT, and we don't have anything to do with the sidecars because who are we to say how you should ride a sidecar. But the solo newcomers you get tend to be high caliber riders now. Unless they're coming through the Grand Prix, which technically doesn't really make you a newcomer in my eye, but unless you're coming through the Grand Prix, the ones who go straight into the TT, if you look at the ones in previous years, like Glenn Irwin, they're coming straight from BSB, you know, they're like top level riders, and it's just about them sort of learning the course, and there's only ever like 2, 3, 4 of them max. So Johnny and Milky are the rider liaison officers, and they sort them out from the initial interest into coming over, doing laps in the car, and all the rest of it. They sort it out. Grand Prix slightly different. Jim gets highly involved in the newcomers, and then the rest of us will to certain degrees. If it's like a friend of a friend maybe, and they'll ask specifically if I'm over next weekend, can we do some laps in the car, then we will. And you'll also notice that on the newcomers speed control lap, 2 or 3 of the TMs will lead the newcomers round for their first lap, and it is a tick box exercise, but it is important that first time you go on the road, you're not just doing it by yourself and making maybe a silly error because it's the first time you've seen it at, like, you know, fast speeds on your bike. So to follow a TM at a reasonably quick but safe pace is one of the roles we take, normally for Tony and Jim, and sometimes either Johnny or Steve will do it or something like that. So yeah, we get involved in them, but like more importantly for me, I think it's the preparation work they do on the lead up to the event. And if any of them ever contact us and ask us to do it, we'll always help out. We'll always go out in the car. And like in my day job as well now, I run like a motorsport simulator, and we can do full TT laps in that in a car, but we can do a full lap of TT. You can sit in with them, and you can actually approach the road at speed in a car. So like, if you go out in a real car, the problem is when you get to Kurt Michael, you go into the village and it's gridlock with cars. They're all parked on one side. There's a bus and a wagon and a tractor and trailer and people walking down the side of the road. You can't even see through the village, never mind pick a line through it. So the only chance you get to do that is either on a game or you can watch onboards. But if you go out for real in the car, you just can't do it. So we can sit you in a car virtually, run you through it fast, and the line is still very relevant. Where you need to be on the road, where you need to position yourself, where you need to turn in late, where you need to get in early, all those things, they cross over from car to bike. And we've had, like, John McGuinness has been in it, and Nathan Harrison, Julian Trummer, top of my head I can't remember the others, but you know, good people, Dave Hewson, and they know Mike Morris. They're coming back to me now, but it's really relevant, really is. and obviously I'm bigging up my own thing at the moment here, but I'm such an advocate for it because I know how well it works. And so if you ever wanted, like, give me a shout and get involved in that, just drop me a message and we can get you in the simulator. That's just for fun and for training as well. So yeah, let us know. That's it. Yeah, just a few common ones and a few uncommon ones. I think sometimes they're a little bit more interesting. The ones that only a couple of people ask, but the common ones sometimes need sorting out, and the uncommon ones are just sometimes interesting to discuss. But yeah, if you've got any specific questions about anything that we do, stick them down below, and we'll get them in another video at some point and get those answered too. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bit of a different one this week. Hope you enjoyed it again, and